The Zarkonian raiders had made their first mistake when they boarded the horizon's edge. Their second mistake was thinking humans were weak. Their fatal mistake was touching Luna. Max was only 17, young even by human standards, barely past what his species called childhood. The Zarkonians had seen his small frame, his youthful face, and dismissed him as harmless. They hadn't bothered restraining him properly when they stormed the civilian transport ship. Luna was 23, a freight coordinator with quick hands and a quicker smile. She'd taken Max under her wing when he'd boarded at Station Kepler, heading to the outer colonies for work. For 2 weeks she'd been his friend, his guide, his protector in the vast unknowing of space. The Zarkonians were a species that fed on fear. They were raiders, not warriors. They preferred soft targets, civilian vessels, places where terror would flow freely. Their scaled hides were thick enough to stop most conventional weapons, their claws sharp enough to rend metal. They stood 7 feet tall and considered themselves apex predators. Captain Throck had 30 successful raids under his belt. He knew how to break a crew, how to make them compliant. Humans were new to the galactic stage, scared little mammals that barely understood the dangers beyond their blue world. When Luna tried to protect the children in the cargo hold, Throck had laughed. When she stood between his claws and the crying youngsters, he'd found it amusing. When she refused to move, he'd made an example of her. They beat her methodically, scientifically. Each blow calculated to cause maximum pain without killing. The Zarkonians laughed, their rattling, clicking laughter that sounded like bones in a jar. They thought her screams were entertainment. They thought her defiance was adorable. Max watched from where they'd chained him to the wall. His face was blank, emotionless. The Zarkonians thought it was shock, maybe fear. They didn't recognize what it actually was. Humans had a word for it: dissociation. The moment when the thinking brain shuts down and something older, something primordial takes over. When Luna finally collapsed, blood pooling beneath her, Throck looked at Max. "Your turn, Cub," he said in broken standard. "Unless you want to beg?" That would be funny too. The chains on Max's wrists were standard Zarkonian restraints, strong enough to hold most species. But Zarkonians didn't understand human anatomy. They didn't know about the flexibility of human thumbs, the collapsible nature of human hands when properly motivated. They didn't know about adrenaline. Max's hands slipped free. The Zarkonians were still laughing, still celebrating their dominance. They didn't notice the cub moving until it was too late. Humans evolved as persistence hunters on a death world. They weren't the strongest or the fastest, but they had something most species lacked: the ability to shut off their pain receptors, to ignore their body's screaming warnings, to push past every biological safeguard when necessary. Max moved like liquid violence. He grabbed a maintenance knife from the tool rack, 8 inches of carbon steel designed for cutting through bulkhead seals. His first strike caught the nearest Zarkonian across the throat, sliding between the scales with anatomical precision. The raider dropped. Gurgling, Throck spun, raising his weapon. But Max was already moving. Humans weren't fast by galactic standards, but in close quarters with adrenaline flooding his system, Max was faster than the Zarkonian's synapses. The knife found Throck's wrist. The captain's weapon clattered to the floor. What happened next would later be analyzed by xenopsychologists across 3 sectors. The other Zarkonians tried to intervene, but Max moved through them like they were standing still. He used their size against them, staying close where their weapons couldn't track, where their claws couldn't reach. Every strike was precise, not wild, not panicked, but efficient. Within 90 seconds, 4 Zarkonians were dead or dying. Throck stumbled backward, clicking in alarm, reaching for a comm device. Max's hand shot out, grabbing the captain's wrist with a grip that made scales crack. The knife came up, pressed against Throck's throat. "You laughed," Max said. His voice was steady, conversational even. "When you hurt her?" "When she screamed. You thought it was funny." Throck's eyes widened. He'd studied humans, knew they were supposed to be empathetic, compassionate, civilized. This creature in front of him was something else. "Do you know what she was?" Max continued, dragging the knife slowly across Throck's scales, not cutting yet, just measuring. "She was protecting children." "Your species has children, don't you, Throck?" The captain tried to speak, tried to threaten or bargain, but Max pressed the blade harder. "She stood between you and them because that's what humans do. We protect our pack. Even the cubs." Max's grip tightened. "Especially the cubs." The knife moved to Throck's mouth, the tip pressing against his tongue. The captain's eyes rolled in terror, an expression he'd seen countless times on his victims but never thought he'd feel himself. "Still funny?" Max asked, his voice soft, almost curious. "Still want to laugh? Or is it different when you're the one bleeding?" The other Zarkonians were fleeing now, scrambling toward their boarding craft. They'd never encountered a species like this, something that looked soft but hid razors underneath, something that became more dangerous when cornered, not less. Max held Throck's gaze. "You made a mistake today. You touched someone I cared about. You made her scream. You laughed." Behind him, Luna coughed, stirring. Still alive, Max's expression didn't change. "I'm going to let you live," Max said, finally lowering the knife. "Not because you deserve it, but because I want you to go back to your people. Tell them what happened here. Tell them what a human cub did to your entire boarding party." He leaned closer, and Throck saw something in those young eyes that would haunt his nightmares, an abyss that stared back. Cold and patient. "Tell them we're not prey. We're not victims. And if they hurt us," Max smiled, but there was no warmth in it, "we'll hunt them through every star in this galaxy until there's nowhere left to hide." Throck fled. Max dropped the knife and ran to Luna, his hands gentle now, cradling her head. "I've got you," he whispered. "You're safe now." Later, when the Coalition Navy arrived to investigate the distress call, they found something unprecedented. A civilian transport where a single human juvenile had repelled an entire Zarkonian raiding party. The security footage went viral across 50 worlds. The Zarkonians never raided human vessels again, and across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as soft, naive newcomers began to understand. These creatures that smiled and laughed and protected their young, they were death-walking softly. They were kind until kindness failed. Then they were something else entirely.